So once, there was a cobbler, shoemaker. His name was Jacobi. Jacobi was not a wealthy man, but he had resources. He did pretty well for himself. And he was a simple Jew, a pious Jew. And he really wanted to be able to do something special to say thank you to God. Well, one day he got an idea because he was sitting in synagogue and he heard the rabbi give a sermon. And the sermon was about how the priests in the temple in the days of old would bring loaves of bread as an offering to God. Well, Jacobi had this great idea. He was going to go home, he was going to get 2 chalot, and he would bring those chalot as an offering to God. And that's exactly what he did. He went home, and the very next week, on Erev Shabbat, on Friday, he came to synagogue. Now, he arrived at the synagogue on Friday afternoon, and he sneaked very carefully into the sanctuary, approached the Holy Ark. And as he stood in front of the Ark, he said, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, I am just a simple and pious Jew, but I have some resources and I want to be able to do something special. And I heard that in the temple, in the days of old, you would accept a gift, an offering of bread, of loaves of bread from the priest, and I want to do the same thing for you. So I've brought my chalot to you, and I offer them to you now. I hope that you will enjoy them. He placed the chalot in the ark, and he went home to join his wife, Miriam, for Shabbat dinner. Well, just a few minutes after Jacobi left the sanctuary, Chaim, the caretaker of the shul, entered. Well, Chaim was there to do his appointed rounds. He was sweeping up and taking care, making sure the Kiddush cup was in place, all those kinds of things. And while he was there, he decided, I'm going to offer a prayer to God. And so Chaim approached the Holy Ark and stood before the Aron HaKodesh and said, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, I am not a wealthy man. The synagogue pays me what it can, but I am struggling really to put enough money together to take care of my family, indeed to have a beautiful Friday night dinner with my family. If only you could provide something special for me. If only you could help me make Shabbos with my family. And as he was davening in front of the ark, he leaned forward a little bit, offering this heartfelt prayer, and discovered inside a miracle. A miracle had occurred. The Kadosh Baruch Hu had provided chalot for Chaim and his family to enjoy for Friday night dinner. Chaim was so excited. He left, went home to his family. They had a wonderful Friday night. Well, the next day, of course, was Shabbat day, and Jacobi was sitting in synagogue. Jacobi was very excited to see whether or not God had accepted his offering of bread, just like the priests in the days of the temple. Jacobi was sitting in shul, waiting anxiously for Seder Kriyat HaTorah, when the ark would be opened, to see if God had eaten the bread. And in fact, the moment came, the congregation rose, the ark was opened, and they were gone. A miracle had occurred. The Kadosh Baruch Hu had accepted Jacobi's offering. He was elated. He was so excited. He ran home after shul to his wife, Miriam, and said, Miriam, you won't believe what happened. I was sitting in synagogue today, and you remember the chalot that I placed in the ark yesterday afternoon? Well, they were gone. The Kadosh Baruch Hu has taken them, has eaten them, has accepted our gift. Miriam, of course, was elated too. She said, Jacobi, you need to go and do this again next week. Make another offering of bread. And that's exactly what happened. Several days passed. Friday afternoon came again, Erev Shabbat, and Jacobi, the simple, pious Jew who had a few resources, came to the synagogue. He sneaked into the sanctuary and very carefully approached the Aron HaKodesh, stood before the holy ark and said, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe. In the days of old, in the time of the temple, the priests would bring their offerings to you. I did that last week. I am hoping that once again I can offer you this humble offering of bread, these chalot, for you to enjoy for Shabbat. Jacobi placed the chalot in the ark, turned, and went home to join his wife Miriam for Shabbat dinner. Well, not a few minutes after Jacobi had left the sanctuary, Chaim, the caretaker, came in to do his appointed rounds, to sweep up and make sure everything was in place. And as he was doing so, he thought again he might offer a prayer to God. And so Chaim, the simple Jew, the Jew who did not have enough money to feed his family, approached the holy ark and said in front, offering his prayer, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe. I'm struggling so much. The synagogue pays me what it can, but I'm struggling to make ends meet. If only you could do something, if you could provide some help for me and my family to be able to have Shabbat dinner, that would be just wonderful. And as Chaim was praying in front of the Aron HaKodesh, he leaned forward and noticed once again a miracle. God had provided chalot for Chaim and his family to enjoy Shabbat dinner. Of course, Chaim was elated and went home after services that evening to enjoy a wonderful Shabbat dinner with his family. Well, the next morning, Jacobi came to shul, wondering if perhaps God had accepted his offering once again. Jacobi, the simple Jew, the pious Jew, the one who had a successful business making shoes, was so grateful to be able to give something special to God. And as he was sitting there in synagogue, he waited for the moment when the ark would be open for Seder Kriyat HaTorah. And the moment came and the ark was opened. And a miracle, the chalot had disappeared. God had received the offering of bread, just like the Kohanim in Beit HaMikdash, the temple in the days of old. Well, Jacobi, of course, was very excited about this. And after synagogue, he ran home to talk to his wife, Miriam. Miriam, you won't believe it. It happened 2 weeks in a row. I brought the chalot that you baked so wonderfully, and I placed them in the holy ark. And God accepted my offering of bread just like the Kohanim in Beit HaMikdash. Miriam said, you have to do it again, Jacobi, next week. And that's exactly what happened. Another week passed. It's again Friday afternoon. And Jacobi comes to the synagogue. He sneaks ever so carefully into the sanctuary and approaches the holy ark with the chalot. Ribono shel olam, he says in front of the ark, you accepted bread from the Kohanim in the temple of old. I hope you will accept this wonderful offering from me as well, a humble offering from your humble servant. He places the chalot into the ark. And as he is turning to leave, the rabbi enters the sanctuary. Jacobi, what are you doing? Jacobi, it's nice to see you, but why are you placing chalot into the ark, says the rabbi. And Jacobi tries to explain to the rabbi that he heard the sermon from the rabbi a few weeks ago when the rabbi was talking about the offering of bread that the priest would bring to the holy temple, and that God would receive that offering, and he wanted to do the same thing, to bring an offering of bread. The rabbi said to Jacobi, Jacobi, God doesn't eat bread. It's not like that. Jacobi said, well, then explain this to me. This is the 3rd week that I've been doing this, and the last 2 weeks I placed the chalot into the ark, and when I came to synagogue on Shabbat, the chalot were gone. God must have taken the bread. Well, the rabbi stroked his clean-shaven face. And he said, Jacobi, that is very strange. You're absolutely right. Something must have happened to the bread. I'll tell you what, why don't we hide and we'll see if we can see what happens. Come on. And so they sat and they waited. And a few minutes later, guess what? Chaim, the caretaker, came into the sanctuary to do his appointed rounds, to get things ready for Shabbat. And then Chaim approached the Holy Ark and stood in front of the Aron HaKodesh and said, Ribono Shel Olam, the synagogue pays me what it can, but it's not enough to make ends meet. I just need a little more help from you. You've been so kind and generous to me these last couple of weeks. Could you once again provide me some chalot so that I can have Shabbat dinner with my family? Well, as Chaim was davening in front of the Aron, he reached into it. And lo and behold, a miracle, there were the chalot. And the rabbi who was standing there with Jacobi said, Chaim, nice to see you, but what are you doing? Well, it was time for Chaim and Jacobi and the rabbi to have a talk. All right, listen. I really appreciate what you were trying to do. Jacobi, you just wanted to give a gift of something special, some bread to God. But you understand, Jacobi, that God doesn't eat bread. When you put the chalot in the ark, it wasn't God that was taking the chalot, it was Chaim. And Chaim was coming each week to take the bread. And Chaim, you understand that God doesn't make bread. That's not how God works in the world. You just took the bread that Jacobi had left there earlier, you see? And then the rabbi thought for a moment. He said, wait a second. Why not, God? Maybe that's exactly what was happening. You know what, Jacobi? Maybe the bread that you were bringing to God is exactly the bread that God gave to Chaim. Maybe God was working through your hands to give this gift to someone in need. And the rabbi said to both men, this has to happen again. I want you to make a sacred promise to one another. Jacobi, you and your wife who have resources, each week you're going to make chalot to bring. And each Friday afternoon on Erev Shabbat, you're going to come to the synagogue and you're going to take the chalot, you're going to place them into the ark. Can you do that, Jacobi? And Chaim, a few minutes later, after Jacobi leaves, you're going to go up to the ark and you're going to take the chalot from the ark and enjoy a wonderful Shabbat dinner with your family. Can you do that? I think, why don't we shake on it? The two men shook hands and they parted ways. So we made it back, friends. Here we are in this beautiful old building that looks a little new and different. We've changed our sacred space into what it needs to be, a place for community, a place for all of us, no matter what our financial circumstances, a place for kids and a place for grown-ups, a place for a little bit of drama and some fun. A place where we can be part of our neighborhood here in Central West Baltimore. And so why not begin Rosh Hashanah the way we end Yom Kippur? And what I'd like to do is, they're still in character. What I'd like to do is invite us to create a bit of bookends to our High Holy Day experiences this year. We have, with the help of In4Of and Cindy Parodies, who is packing bags, we have a number of chalot and honey and apples in bags for you to take on your way out of synagogue. Some of you may know, many of you know, that our tradition is at the end of Yom Kippur, after Ne'ilah, to take the potted mums from the steps and to leave them on the step of a neighbor here in Reservoir Hill. Don't take the mums tonight. We need them for Yom Kippur. But there are these bags of challah and honey and apples. And what we'd like you to do, and they have a little note inside them from Beth Am Synagogue. And as you're heading back to your cars, I think there's probably enough for about one per family, maybe one per extended family. So if you could take one, and as you head back to your cars and you go for Rosh Hashanah dinner tonight, if you could take one and place it on the doorstep of a neighbor here in Reservoir Hill. My teacher, Rabbi Harold Showeish, Alava Shalom, who was a venerated and venerable rabbi in Los Angeles in the Valley when I was in rabbinical school, he taught about godliness, and he said that godliness is like love. It's not located in me, and it's not located in you. Godliness exists between us. As we think about what it is to come back into the sacred space, I want to invite us to think about experiencing God in the connectivity between and among congregants, between us and our community, between us and anybody we encounter in the world in the coming year. If we can do that, we'll have acted as God's hands in the world and made this new year indeed a sweet one for all of us. Shana Tova. At this time,